مناورات عسكرية واسعة اختارت إيران أن ترد على التصعيد الأمريكي ضدها الذي تمثل بالتصريحات والاتهامات والعقوبات. الحرس الثوري الإيراني أعلن أن المناورات تهدف إلى إظهار الاستعداد التام لمواجهة التهديدات بما فيها تلك التي وصفها بالعقوبات المهينة ضد إيران التي أعلنتها واشنطن وشملت عددا من الشركات والأشخاص. المناورات تجريها القوة الجوفضائية لحرس الثورة الإسلامية تحت اسم المدافعون عن سماء الولاية، وتستخدم خلالها مختلف أنواع المنظومات الرادارية والصاروخية ومراكز القيادة والتحكم والحرب الإلكترونية. وكانت واشنطن فرضت عقوبات جديدة على طهران وقالت إن ذلك يأتي ردا على إطلاق إيران صواريخ باليستية، بينما مضى الرئيس الأمريكي.
Pyongyang says Washington and Seoul have pushed the Korean Peninsula to the brink of nuclear war with their decision to deploy a controversial missile defense system. Facing this threat, the DPRK says it will hold on to its nuclear weapons. Citing the DPRK's Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of Korea, state-run news agency KCNA on Friday said the country had been identified as a target for preemptive nuclear strikes by the US. The DPRK says it will take all possible measures to improve its ability for preemptive strikes if the US and South Korea ignore repeated warnings against nuclear threats and holding of annual military exercise.
The Iranian media almost all take this issue on its front page, and one of the reformist newspaper titled is that actually Trump is playing the fire, and some of the newspaper also comment that actually now the U.S. is showing its real face, and they said that U.S. is without the makeup. The comment is like this, and we've seen that Iran have already announced some measures, to reciprocal measures, like to take some legal actions to some U.S. firms and individuals that support the regional terrorism and the extreme forces. And now we know that the moderate Rouhani government is already under more and more pressures from the hardliners to take more reciprocal measures, and these kind of moves from the U.S. side may push Iran to take more hardline stand. And also that we know today Iran's RTC forces already announced large-scale maneuvers, the anti-air defense maneuvers, and Iran also announced that during these maneuvers, Iran will test some missiles and also some radar systems.
The newest American president is standing up to his counterparts around the world, whether they be friend or foe, and reaction is coming in from around the world. He started his day at the National Prayer Breakfast, an annual event that began under President Eisenhower. Today, President Trump reiterated his warnings to Iran and is about to back it up with new sanctions. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts has details tonight from the North Lawn. Good evening, John.
Brad, good evening to you. It is the first punitive action that the newly minted Trump administration has taken against another country, a sharp response to Iran violating a United Nations Security Council order.
Nothing is off the table. Right.
White House sources say the president will impose new sanctions against Iran for its recent test of a medium-range ballistic missile as soon as tomorrow. The White House insists the test violates a UN Security Council resolution, though it does not abrogate the 2015 Iran nuclear deal brokered by the Obama administration. The sanctions will target more than 20 Iranian entities for terrorism or missile-related activities. The White House had to get creative with the application of sanctions for fear of itself violating the nuclear agreement. The missile launch is the first test of how President Trump will deal with the nation he claims rolled the United States in a bad deal and now just wants to cheat. Iran is thumbing its nose at the president, an advisor to Ayatollah Khamenei, dismissing what he called, quote, useless threats from a, quote, inexperienced person. But there is plenty of support for new sanctions on Capitol Hill.
When you hear about the tough phone calls I'm having, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it.
The president is finding less support for his dealings with a strong ally after what is described by White House sources as a frank phone call with Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. The president is said to be deeply disappointed in a deal cut by the Obama administration in November to take in refugees living in offshore Australian detention camps.
President Obama said that they were going to take probably well over 1,000 illegal immigrants who were in prisons, and they were going to bring them and take them into this country, and I just said, why?
When details of the call became public last night, the president took to Twitter, writing, quote, "I will study this dumb deal." It was too much for Senator John McCain, who telephoned the Australian ambassador to apologize on behalf of the United States.
This, in my view, was an unnecessary and frankly harmful open dispute.
While he despises the deal, the president did agree to honor it, with the provision the refugees would be subject to extreme vetting, which seemed fair enough for the Australian Prime Minister.
You've got to remember what the president is doing, and I thanked him for that. He committed to honour a deal done by his predecessor that, no doubt, or he would say that he would not have done himself.
And in a move that initially provoked concerns among conservatives, the Treasury Department today modified sanctions the Obama administration slapped on Russia in the wake of the hacking scandal. Under pressure from U.S. companies, Treasury rolled back restrictions on the sale of some information technology items to Russia. The White House says the change was in the works during the final days of the Obama administration, but took a while to complete. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer insists the Treasury Department was not rolling back Russian sanctions, simply an adjustment that created a carve-out that American companies had been clamoring for. Brett?
John Roberts live on the North Lawn. John, thank you.
Iran has been slapped with new sanctions. A few days prior, Donald Trump got on Twitter and said, Iran is playing with fire. They don't appreciate how kind President Obama was to them, not me. And now with these new sanctions, 13 businesses as well as 12 individuals targeted by new sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, the Obama administration considered the JCPOA, the result of the P5+1 talks and the nuclear deal, they considered that also to be one of their crowning achievements in foreign policy. But it seems that this new deal is essentially annulling what took place under the Obama administration. Let's take a listen to what was said by Obama and by what's coming from the new administration.
This week, together with our allies and partners, we reached a historic understanding with Iran. It's a good deal, a deal that meets our core objectives.
President Trump has severely criticized the various agreements reached between Iran and the Obama administration, as well as the United Nations, as being weak and ineffective. Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened.
In response, Iran has said that it's going to impose its own restrictions on the US. Earlier we spoke to former Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran, Amir Abdullahian. He said that if the nuclear agreement collapses, Iran will take immediate action.
The nuclear agreement with Tehran was cemented in a UN resolution, so it's an international agreement. Some of Donald Trump's statements about the possible breaking of the agreement have met a harsh reaction from his Iranian counterpart. If the US does decide to rip up the agreement, we'll burn what's left. So we'll watch Trump's decision closely. Our answer will be effective and immediate.
And in other developments, adding fuel to the flames, the United States has sent a naval destroyer to patrol the coast off Yemen. That's to guard against Houthi rebels who are supported by Tehran. Meanwhile, the Obama administration presented a bill to the House of Representatives to authorize the use of military force against Tehran if it pursued nuclear weapons. The Iranian foreign minister reacted this evening on Twitter.
Iran is unmoved by the threats as we derive security from our people. We'll never initiate war, but we can only rely on our own means of defense.
Professor of International Law at Georgetown University, Dow Kairala, believes that tensions between the US and Iran will only continue to escalate.
I think this war of words is going to continue. In the case of Mr. Trump, he is trying to make good on his promises when he was running for the U.S. presidency. And he had promised that he will put an end to the nuclear agreement. Well, he realized now that this is something that is next to impossible. He is going to make up for that by imposing sanctions, in my judgment, will be economic sanctions. On the other hand, the Iranians have a record of being tenacious, showing a certain national pride. They are not going to take it lie down, so they will respond, but the response will be limited.